Hey, it's Jordan. Delighted to be joined by Jeremy Elwood. You're a Flint resident who, like the rest of Flint, has been pretty much left to fend for yourselves, I would say, by 99.9% of American media. Frankly, most of the media I've seen in Flint over the years has been from other countries, sadly enough. But you kind of stood out to me because you posted an image recently of your water filter, which you had put in a week before. As you could see, the one on the left was put in a week before you took this photo, and it's all sorts of brown. So let's start with that. How regularly do you change your filters? How has your water been coming out in Flint? Has there been any smell or, odd taste or anything like that leading up to this?
Okay. So to give you a little rundown how I have the filters set up in the house, that one that you saw that was really brown is 10 micron, and then it goes down to 5, and then it goes down to 1. And then for the water that goes to my fridge goes down to 0.2 micron, which filters out most bacteria. That 10 micron one, typically I will change that once a month, and then the others once a quarter, because that filters out most of the heavy stuff. What you see in that picture is literally if I leave it for a full quarter, usually. So that's 3 months worth of brown after 1 week.
Wow. And was there any recent change? Obviously, some of the water main, well, not some, there's been water mains that have been bursting in Flint periodically, consistently. The media only really covered the fact that they were changing the service lines, which are the pipes from the curb into your home, but they never really were replacing the main pipes that are generally made of cast iron. They weren't replacing most residents' interior plumbing. They said they didn't have to change the mains because they weren't lead, but cast iron, which is that brown, is what you're seeing, can produce lead. There is lead and other sediments that can come from corrosion of cast iron. So did anything change recently that would make the filter go bad that quickly?
Not that I'm aware of. And just to let you know about the plumbing in my house, so we actually got lucky when we bought this house. It was stripped of everything. So the service line coming up to the house is copper, and then I did the entire interior with PEX. So there was absolutely nothing internally that would cause that. In terms of like the water main break that you mentioned, let's point out real quick that Flint has literally at least 2 water main breaks every year. Like literally every year there's at least 2. And instead of just replacing it and fixing it, they just patch it up. Right. As for anything, so that water filter that you saw, we just had a water main break literally 2 days after I took that picture.
And they did a boil water alert.
They did a boil water alert. Yep. It was just lifted yesterday, I think it was.
And by the way, people should know boil water alerts, when you're telling residents to boil the water, if you have high levels of lead in it, it's going to breed bacteria.
It actually makes
lead.
It actually makes the amount of lead more potent in that water too, because you're evaporating the water away from the lead.
Correct.
So you're getting more parts per million. So in terms of changes, though, no. And here's another fun fact. So they did, as you know, they replaced some of the service lines. Not once have they come out to test my water. Not once. They send us the test kits. And in fact, after I did this, I went to the city literally the next day, well, Monday, because they were closed. And I got test kits. I got 3 of them, so I can test before the filters, after the filters, and after the refrigerator filter. That's the really hefty one. They only test for lead and copper, which is fine. We need that test. Nothing for bacteria, which is actually my bigger concern here. And I asked, well, where can I get a bacteria test? And they told me to go to Home Depot. Home Depot only has it for TDS, total dissolved solids. They have nothing for bacteria. So now they want me to go to Eagle. Well, I have some trust issues with Eagle. Sorry.
Yeah, the state environmental department. Yeah.
Yeah. So honestly, I'm not sure where or how to go about getting it tested for bacteria from someone I trust. There are a few options, but yeah, they're unwilling to do anything for testing purposes from the city. And I'm sorry, if they're not going to fix it, they need to test for more than just copper and lead. They need to test what the problem is now, which is the bacteria.
And by the way, I mean, trying to get answers from the state of Michigan, Flint, over the last 7 years of my reporting, needle in a haystack. They, provide a lot of kind of copied and pasted answers, most of the time proven to be lies. But in my recent reporting, I have uncovered recent cases as recent as 2021, so 2 years ago that summer, as well as last summer, of Legionnaires' cases, the bacterial pneumonia that killed a lot of people in Flint, that, it basically residents were hospitalized with Legionnaires. The CDC called, tried to suggest it was coming from the air conditioner. But when the resident said, I'm on disability, I haven't been using the air conditioner, I was showering 3 or 4 times a day to stay cool, CDC wanted no part of it and basically ended the conversation. So that resident, at least, it couldn't have been coming from their home air conditioner. It was coming from the shower water. Luckily, he made it. Then there's a woman who, unfortunately, I haven't been able to get on the record, but she had bacterial issues in her home on the north side of Flint, and the city told her, but not the rest of the neighborhood, don't drink the water. So I think the media and the now Democratic Party has just cited the state testing or the city's testing for the last few years to claim, problem solved, mission accomplished. We're meeting EPA guidelines, but all you got to do is talk to residents or show photos. You're not the first one to post either discolored water, filters still appearing problematic, people posting images, of their water running and it's smelling. So talk to me. Obviously, we see your filter, but your neighbors, your friends there, how are other people experiencing the water, which, to be clear, almost a decade later, majority of the pipes have not been replaced. So I don't really know how they could declare the water is fine, it's not contaminated, if you still have most of the corroded, busted infrastructure in place.
So about the neighbors. So as soon as this happened and I took the picture, I went around to my direct neighbors and let them know, hey man, I'm filing a complaint with the city. This is what's going on. It's still happening, yada, yada, yada. One of them told me that she has like a pink slime in her toilet and stuff, which I got that on my shower curtain. I had to buy a Clorox shower curtain and it's still collecting at the bottom. Now, the pink slime is called pink mold, but it's actually a bacteria. And so that means that we do have some kind of bacteria, in our water. Now, it's typically, the pink mold is typically not that dangerous, but I shower. Like, I don't drink our water, obviously. I don't really cook with it. I shower in it, and that's about it. But that's where it's collecting, is in the shower. One of my other neighbors who's kitty corner from me, I talked to him the other day and let him know about what was going on. And he literally told me, he's like, I'm packing up and moving. He's like, I'm already moving out. He said, I got property out of here and I'm sick of having to buy water for my dog and myself and my family and to cook with. Like, I just can't afford to keep buying water. And I'm like, dude, I get you, man. So we have people leaving because of that. We have a couple of other people, they already have like really good systems. One of them has reverse osmosis. So they're pretty okay. But other than that, yeah, people are leaving. People are noticing the pink that's collecting, all that. So, and it's still, what's sad is that, like I said, they haven't visited my neighborhood that I know of. The city has not visited my neighborhood at all. And I'm not like downtown. It's a pretty chill neighborhood here. But they haven't even come to say hi or anything and say, hey, can we test your water? Now, we actually got a notice in the mail that we had to sign up for, that they will test one adult for PFAS. So blood urine test for PFAS. Haven't heard back about that yet, but I registered for that too. So,
well, what I just want the audience to understand, because most people have been fed the main problem was the lead. And yes, lead was a major problem. By the way, last year, the lead levels were going up in Flint. That was reported that they were going up. But bacteria was what killed a lot of people. The state of Michigan put out the completely bullshit number of 12 people died from Legionnaires. That's laughable. PBS reported that it could have been above 100. And basically, since they did not have a health registry for many years there, and Legionnaires gets mixed up with pneumonia very often, it's really not possible to know how many people died of pneumonia that was really Legionnaires but wasn't counted towards the Flint water crisis. Then you add in Flint has become a gigantic, one of the worst cancer clusters in America. It's not coming from the weather. So, you know, the true death toll in Flint that I have worked really hard to try and estimate is unknown. But people should understand bacteria is such a problem here because you still have these corroded pipes, but also this is a 600 miles worth of pipes. It was the water infrastructure was built for the city when it had a population over 200,000 people. The population now is, I believe, around 80,000 people, and you have sections of
and
Flint
bleeding. And bleeding.
Yes, yeah, and you have sections of Flint that have a lot of abandoned homes. So what do you get from that? A lot of areas where the water is stagnant. So if the water is stagnant, then the chlorine that is mixed into water to kill bacteria, and that's mixed into all water systems, chlorine to kill, potentially dangerous bacteria. The chlorine's just drying up. It's being zapped up. And then you don't have enough chlorine when the water starts moving again to kill the bacteria, hence bacteria in the water. This is not, there's been plenty of activists who have said we need to retrofit the city's infrastructure for the current population. That hasn't been done. You haven't, the current mayor, he's had every excuse in the book why they haven't changed all the service lines. We're not talking a year later. We're talking over 9 years later, round it to a decade next year. The former mayor of Flint, Karen Weaver, told me that when she approached Governor Whitmer, a Democrat, can we get more funding to help replace damaged interior plumbing? She was told by the governor, who all the media is showering with puff pieces and profiles, the state legislature has Flint fatigue, so I can't get you any more funding. I mean, the list goes on. So the point is, I don't think any objective person can confidently say the water is totally fine now. Children are not at risk. Immune compromised are not at risk. The proof is in the pudding. Your filter is charcoal after a week.
Well, let's talk about something you mentioned. Two things you mentioned, actually. First of all, okay, so Gretchen, you're in charge of the damn state. Okay, let's take Flint off it. Legislature has Flint fatigue. All right, cool. Let's talk about Benton Harbor. Let's talk about Saginaw. Let's talk about Detroit. Why don't you go ahead and set these funds up on a statewide, call an emergency, call a federal emergency for this shit. This is not just Flint. This is your fucking state. Sorry about the language, but damn it, it's your state, So they have Flint fatigue? Cool. Make it about Michigan then. How about that? We have the greatest supply of fresh water in the world around Michigan. And you're not doing anything to fix it. And
by the way, she acted pretty swiftly when it came to Benton Harbor, which is also a majority Black community. They kind of threw the kitchen sink at the Benton Harbor water problem.
Literally.
Whereas in Kalamazoo, which I've been covering also, you got a paper mill, a multi-billion-dollar company that's literally poisoning a poor Black community. She won't even comment on it, probably because she helped them expand 2 years ago with a $125 million bond deal. But it's just kind of obscene. People ask me, Jordan, how do you keep covering this? It's just a twilight zone. How does an American city, and Flint is not like bumblefuck. It was the envy of America not so long ago. It was the birthplace of the middle class, the auto industry. How is all of this not I don't want to say fixed because people are permanently damaged, but how is the bare essentials not done to the point where the current mayor is kicking and screaming in court and delaying not to finish the lead service line replacements? Tell me about...
real quick, I want to make a point too. And I'm sorry, I'm going to get aggressive here about the city of Flint. Our Flint City Council is a joke right now too. Like, let's be honest. Can they do anything except for argue? Like, they're doing nothing about anything. Now, you got a few good ones in there that are actually fighting, and I appreciate that. I really do. But unless they can get together like a goddamn team that they're supposed to be and make the entire city of Flint better, we're not going to get better. I don't care what the mayor does. We're not going to get better unless they start fighting for the city that they're supposed to represent and love. And real quick, too, I'm sorry, but there's a really important point about the bacteria that you mentioned that I need to make a very big point of, that people that watch you are probably already aware. There are a lot of disabled people in Flint, poor, disabled, everyone knows that. My biggest concern is exactly what you mentioned, which is the bacteria. Yes, I'm concerned about the lead. Yes, I'm concerned about the copper. But as you mentioned, I'm concerned about the bacteria. My roommate has multiple sclerosis. She is immune compromised. If anything happens to her because of this water, I am going to freak the fuck out. Fortunately, she doesn't drink it either. We both just drink bottled water, that sort of thing. But people need to understand that it's not just like a quote unquote healthy white boy that's sitting here doing this. It's you got your minorities in Flint are the majority of the city. You have a ton of disabled people who can't afford, like we're lucky that I can actually get bottled water. You have people who cannot afford to do that. And the water distribution is it still kind of sort of exists, but people have pretty much given up and said, oh, it's fixed, like you said. So I just had to make that point because that's something that people need to really understand too, that you have a multiple demographic here that's being affected by this.
Right. And by the way, I mean, yes, it's a majority minority city, but there's a lot of poor white folks in Flint that have been poisoned. And I know several, unfortunately, that have died in recent years. And, what can you do? You can't definitively say it was because of the water, but I can say for a lot of people I know died, they were relatively healthy before all this in 2014, and their health went to shit after this. And it also, when you have a global pandemic, you're especially immune if you're a Flint resident. It's not just older folks that are vulnerable to COVID. It's all ages because your immune system was shot. Could you talk about, because a lot of people, don't hear about the Flint water crisis anymore, but could you talk about people how is their health? I know you've had some recent challenges. You're not really sure if it's due to the water, but how are people's health? Because, people I talk to, cancers, autoimmune issues, crippling muscle issues, back. It totally runs the gamut, and they're not really getting help. You guys did not get Medicare for all like Libby, Montana did after their asbestos disaster. So tell me about just people in your life. How are people's health?
Honestly, I don't really know a lot of people in Flint except for the people that you've already talked to. Okay. I don't even work in Flint. I work outside of the city, and I kind of keep to myself here at home. So my direct neighbors are pretty much my group. With the exception of what I just what I told you already, my direct neighbors to the right are doing they're fine, but they have they don't drink the water either. They use good filtration, better than what I got. So as far as I know, they're good. But the people like I mentioned before, like the one that has the pink mold, they're noticing some breathing issues. Also don't know if it's direct from the water, but it's why we got to get tested. We got people leaving town specifically because of the water. Like, I wish I had more references for you on that because I'm sure I'd have stories to tell you, but
I know plenty of people that have left town. Plenty of people that we're talking over 10,000 people have left town since all this began. Yeah.
Yep.
And let me ask you about, obviously we're talking about the health component here. No response from the city about your filter issue? It was on social media.
So the city, when I posted that and I tagged City of Flint in it, City of Flint commented on it and told me to call them and then go get a test kit from the city. Okay. So that was on a Friday when I posted it. So I had to wait till Monday to go get a test kit. So I went and get a test kit. It only tests for copper and lead, which is fine. That test needs to be done too, but I need a test for bacteria. So I actually got 3 tests, one for before the filters, one for after the filters, one for after the 0.2. I think I mentioned that earlier. They sent me to Home Depot to get a bacteria kit. Home Depot does not sell or offer bacteria kits. It's total dissolved solids only. I still need to get a bacteria kit. Apparently I'm supposed to go to Eagle now, which I have trust issues with Eagle, forgive me. So I have no way to get that tested until I can figure out how the hell to get a proper test or take it to a lab that I can trust to do it. Now I know there's a couple options which I'm looking into, but that's literally all the city has done. That's it. They haven't.
That's just mind blowing. So long into this, we're talking almost a decade that they don't have an easy breezy go-to process to test for bacteria because they were denying for a very long time that there even was a bacterial problem.
And then we just had another spill in the Flint River that they're still trying to figure out what the substance is. They still don't even know what the hell the substance was. This place, man, I'm sorry, man. I'm getting pissed.
Well, good. I'm pissed too. And what does it say? You hear all this marketing and fundraising emails for the Democratic Party about this historic infrastructure deal that's replacing lead service lines and this and that. Well, apparently Flint wasn't prioritized in that, not to mention the other pipes that need to be replaced that we've already spoken about. It's not just the service lines. But what do you think of this kind of marketing and sloganeering coming from the Democratic Party? I mean, listen, this happened under a Republican governor, let's be clear, but Whitmer has been governor for 4 or 5 years. It's her job to finally fix it. I know a lot of people in Flint were very hopeful with her coming in and getting rid of Snyder, but she reneged on her promises to reopen the water stations that were delivering free water. She denied the mayor, like I told you, any help for interior plumbing. From what I could tell, she hasn't done jack shit for the city of Flint.
No, she hasn't. She hasn't. And it's, it's funny. You mentioned the Democratic Party, and I'm of no party. I trust both of them pretty much equally. I will say that if I had to pick between the two, obviously I'd lean toward the Democrats, but they don't act. They're good talkers. They don't act. What happened to the $600 million that was supposed to fix this shit? Where'd that go? So no, I have no trust in that. They can talk all they want, but they're not winning my vote until they show me something. Right. And it sucks. It does suck because honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Whitmer has done some good things for the state. She has actually done some progressive things. But Jesus Christ, man, you still got people dying on shit that you could have fixed easily. You could have fixed it with a fucking signature. And you're not doing it. And something that she should have fixed that should have been her first priority when she got into office was dealing with shit like this. You want to fix the damn roads, that's cool. While you're fixing them and have them dug up, why don't you go ahead and check those water mains while you're at it?
And lastly, let's not excuse the current Attorney General, another favorite of MSNBC, Dana Nessel. Listen, she's not a fan of mine. I have broken a couple stories, showing that the original investigation team in Flint were a lot more aggressive than the team of clowns she put on there. For those that don't know, there was a special prosecutor appointed and ran the investigation for the first 3 years, 2016 to 2019. Then for some reason that still doesn't make sense, this attorney general got elected, came into office and cleaned house, fired the original team, restarted a criminal investigation, dropped charges, recharged officials that she had dropped the charges, but recharged them with lesser crimes, charged former Governor Snyder with a misdemeanor when the previous investigation was gunning for involuntary manslaughter. And last year, the Michigan Supreme Court threw out all her charges, ruling that she and her team of prosecutors had filed the wrong way against the state constitution. Residents I speak with don't think this was just incompetence. They think it was intentional to tank this.
It was 100% intentional, Jordan. It was they were actually, believe it or not, I was actually impressed at the job that they were doing originally. And she came in and she fired them and made up some technical bullshit excuse about it. Like it was her. I forgot what it was directly off the top of my head. I can't quote it.
She claimed that they missed millions of documents.
Yeah. Okay, they missed millions of documents. Why don't you continue the investigation with them and look for the goddamn documents? How is this hard? And then you're going to let all them go, make up some bullshit excuse, and then hire some incompetent group for lesser charges. Go for the harder charges and then let it get talked down. Let it get pleaded something, I'm with you on Nessel.
And I put in a Freedom of Information request trying to get certain documents. I won't go further on what those were. And they denied me, saying there's an active investigation going on. So I pushed back. Can you point to what the active investigation is? Because the state Supreme Court threw out the charges, basically stating that they used a one-man grand jury, which just means a judge, to file the indictments, which the court 6-0. It wasn't like a partisan ruling. Republican judges, Democratic judges ruled that they violated the Constitution using this process. And I said, what is the active investigation? Because the statute of limitations for most of these crimes has passed. Felonies in Michigan is 6 years. You're well past that for most of these crimes. I'm not getting a response. So it just seems to me they're running out the clock and hoping or banking on the media doesn't cover it anymore. And,
Well, let's be clear. Let's be clear about something too. It's not, Whitmer has a powerhouse right now. Both sides of the state legislature, both houses of the state legislature are Democrat right now, with a Democratic governor, with a Democratic attorney general. You literally have the perfect opportunity to do something. Like, do it before you lose the House, because you're going to probably lose the House in 2024. Right.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time. Sorry, you're still dealing with this. Obviously, you're in a slightly better position than a lot of people I've met, but doesn't matter. I mean, you pay taxes. You should get clean water. You should get clean water just as a human right anyway. But the fact that you're paying taxes, you're also paying some of the highest rates in the country for this toxic shit. It's just vile. And when I hear let's restore the soul of America and all this other bullshit coming from Democrats, this is the soul of America. Like the government poisons a city, covers it up after, and then leaves them to slowly die. So I'll stay on it. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you, Jordan. Thank you much.